My name is Lizzy, and I was 23 when this happened. I'd been working at Carter Gas for just under a year. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills while I helped take care of my little brother and my mom, who had been in and out of the hospital. The hours were long and the uniform smelled like diesel, but I showed up every day with a smile because people deserve kindness, even on bad days. That morning, I had no idea how fast everything was about to change. It was a slow Tuesday, late October. Windy, gray, and quiet, just the occasional customer driving in, paying, and heading out. I was wiping down the coffee station inside when I saw him. An old man, thin, hunched, maybe in his late 70s, pulled up to pump 4 in a rusted-out Ford. His clothes looked like they hadn't been washed in a while. Faded overalls, a heavy coat missing buttons, and a cap that had seen better decades. He walked in slowly, eyes scanning the ground like he'd lost something. "Excuse me, miss," he said, voice quiet but clear. I filled up before I realized I left my wallet at home. "I'm sorry. I can go get it and come back." There was something honest in his tone. No drama, no excuses. Just old-fashioned embarrassment. I'd seen enough hustlers in this job to spot a fake, and this wasn't one of them. I glanced around. My manager wasn't watching. I opened my own purse and slid out a crumpled $20 bill, the only cash I had until Friday. "Don't worry about it, sir," I said quietly. "Just pay me back if you can. And if not, don't lose sleep over it." His eyes went wide. "That's too kind, really. I'll come back. I promise I believe you," I replied. He left slowly, carefully, his hands shaking slightly as he climbed into his truck and drove off. But not 2 minutes later, everything unraveled. "Lizzy." My manager, Troy, stomped in from the back like a storm cloud. A customer must have tattled, or maybe one of the cameras caught something. Either way, he already knew. "You paid for that guy's gas?" he snapped. "Are you actually that stupid?" I blinked. It was $20. He said he forgot his wallet. I didn't touch the register. "I don't give a damn." He cut me off, red-faced and furious. "You can't just hand out gas like we're running a charity. This isn't your money, this is company property." "No, Troy, it was my own cash," I said, calm but shaking inside. "I paid from my wallet." "Even dumber," he shouted. "You're so naive it's painful. Do you know how many cons come in here? You think you're some kind of saint? Get out. You're done. You're fired." I just stood there. My ears buzzed, my heart sank, but I didn't speak. Not then. "Clock out. Pack your stuff. I don't want to see your face again," he growled, already turning his back. I walked to the back room and took off my badge with trembling fingers. I'd never been fired before. Never even had a warning. The thought of going home and telling my mom and little brother, it hit me like a truck. As I zipped up my hoodie and collected my things, the station door chimed open. A voice I didn't recognize spoke calmly but firmly. "Who's in charge here?" I peeked around the shelf and saw a tall man in a long coat, sharp eyes scanning the space. He didn't look like a regular customer. "I am," Troy said, puffing up his chest. "Can I help you?" The man handed him a business card. Troy's face changed color like a stoplight. My heart skipped a beat. "I'm the owner of this station," the man said slowly, "and I heard something disturbing from my father this afternoon." My bag fell off my shoulder. That poor-looking man? Was his dad? For a moment, the whole station fell silent. Troy stood frozen, mouth half open, the business card still in his hand like it might burn him. The tall man didn't raise his voice, didn't look angry, but there was something in his presence that filled the room. Calm, sure, dangerous in the way that only powerful people are when they're disappointed. "I'm Oliver Grant," he said plainly. "I own this location, and I believe you just fired the young woman who helped my father this morning." Troy stammered. I didn't know, I mean, "I'm not here for excuses," Oliver said sharply, cutting him off. "I want to speak to Lizzy. privately. I was still near the employee lockers, my bag on the floor, my hands gripping the edge of the counter like I might collapse. At the sound of my name, I straightened up, stepped forward slowly, and met his eyes. He gave me a polite nod. "You must be Lizzy. Would you mind stepping outside with me for a moment?" I nodded, unable to find my voice. We walked out together into the chilly afternoon, wind whipping the leaves across the pavement. He led me to a black Mercedes parked near the air pump. The contrast between that car and the rusty truck from earlier made everything click into place. "That man this morning," I said softly. "He was your father?" He nodded. "Yes, his name's Thomas. He's 82. A retired mechanical engineer, proud to the bone and lately struggling." He looked away, briefly, like he needed a second to gather himself. "He was diagnosed with early-stage dementia last spring. It comes and goes. Some days he's completely lucid. Other days he forgets where he is or what he's doing. He's always been independent, and we've tried to give him space, but..." He sighed. "Today he thought he was picking up groceries. Somehow ended up here. And when I got home from work, he told me about a kind young woman who trusted him, who paid for his gas and treated him with dignity." His eyes met mine. "That was you." I swallowed hard. "I didn't know, He looked lost and scared. I had a $20 bill and it felt like the right thing to do." Oliver nodded. "You had no idea who he was, and you still helped him." I bit my lip. I didn't do it for thanks or attention. "I know. That's exactly why it matters." He paused. "I'm sorry you were treated the way you were, especially by someone representing my company." I glanced back toward the building. Through the glass, I could see Troy pacing like a caged animal. "He called me stupid," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "Said I was dumb for trusting someone. Fired me in front of customers like I was trash." Oliver's jaw tightened. He won't be employed here much longer. My eyes widened. "You're firing him?" He looked at me steadily. "What do you think should happen?" I hesitated. I wasn't someone who liked revenge. But the injustice still stung. Not just for me. For people who try to do the right thing and get crushed by people like Troy. "I think kindness shouldn't get you punished," I said. "I think there's a difference between breaking rules and using judgment. And if someone like Troy can't see that, maybe he shouldn't be leading anyone." He smiled, a small, approving smile. "Well said." We stood there for a beat. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. "This is yours," he said. "Reimbursement and then some." I opened it. Inside was not $20, but 5 crisp $100 bills. I shook my head. "I can't accept this." "You can," he said. "And you should. It's not charity. It's acknowledgement." My father told me today was the first time in weeks he felt respected. That's worth more than money. But the least I can do is make sure your generosity doesn't cost you your livelihood. Tears pricked my eyes, and I blinked them back. "And Lizzy," he added, "I'd like to offer you a job. Not at this station. I have a regional office 10 miles from here. We're looking for a new customer care coordinator. Someone with heart. Someone like you." I stared at him. "You're serious?" "Completely." He handed me a business card. This one with a direct number and a title. "Take the evening to think about it, but the job's yours if you want it." I watched him drive away, my hands trembling around the card. Troy didn't come outside again, and I didn't go back in. When I got home that evening, I told my mom everything. She held my hands across our chipped kitchen table and said softly, "You did the right thing, and sometimes it takes a little courage to be rewarded." I didn't know it then, but this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up with Oliver Grant's business card still clutched in my hand. I had fallen asleep on the couch, fully dressed, exhausted from the emotional whiplash of the day before. Getting fired, then offered a new opportunity. It didn't feel real yet. It felt like someone else's life. "Are you okay?" my mom asked gently, placing a cup of coffee in front of me. She looked tired, but her eyes were full of quiet hope. I nodded slowly. "I think I am. I mean, it's not every day you get called dumb and fired, and then handed a job offer by the guy who owns the company." She smiled. "Sometimes the world surprises you." Still, I hesitated. I didn't know much about customer care coordination or what working at a regional office would really involve. I'd never sat in a real meeting room, never worn a blazer, never had a job that didn't come with a name tag and a shift schedule posted on a bulletin board. What if I wasn't qualified? What if this was a mistake? But then I thought of the way Oliver had looked at me. Calm, serious, respectful. Like I mattered. Like I wasn't just some poor girl with a generous heart, but someone worth investing in. By noon, I called the number. "Mr. Grant's office," said a voice, polite and professional. "This is, Lizzy. He gave me his card yesterday. He said to call if I was interested in the job." "Ah, one moment, please." A second later, Oliver's voice came through. "Lizzy, I was hoping you'd call. I'd like to learn more about the position." "Good. Come by tomorrow at 10 a.m. My assistant will be expecting you. Bring nothing but yourself. We'll talk, see how it feels." The next morning, I stood outside the regional office wearing my best jeans, a pressed button-down shirt I borrowed from my mom, and a pair of shoes that pinched my toes but made me feel like someone. The building was modern. Glass walls, silver trim, landscaped flower beds. It was nothing like the gas station. Inside, a kind woman named Jenna offered me coffee and showed me to a small meeting room with soft lighting and framed photos of company milestones. When Oliver walked in, he wasn't in a suit this time, just slacks and a sweater. Still sharp, but approachable. "Glad you came," he said. He didn't start with a lecture or an intimidating list of responsibilities. Instead, he asked about my life. My mom, my little brother and his school. How I'd ended up working at Carter Gas. What I liked about helping people. He listened, really listened, as if what I said actually mattered. Then he leaned forward. "Lizzy, I don't care if you've never worked in an office. What matters to me is what you did at that station. You made a judgment call based on compassion and empathy. That's the kind of thinking I want around me. But I don't know how to—" I started. He held up a hand. "That's what training is for. What I can't teach is integrity, and you've already proven you have it." He slid a thin folder across the table. Inside were the job details: full-time hours, benefits, paid time off, a starting salary that made my eyes widen. "You don't have to say yes now," he said, "but we're ready for you if you're ready for us." I stared at the numbers. I had never imagined a paycheck like that, not even close. It wasn't just a job. It was a chance. A door into a different kind of life. I walked out of that office with the contract in my hands and the kind of smile that wouldn't leave, no matter how hard I tried to stay calm. That night at home, I spread the papers out on the kitchen table. My mom covered her mouth as she read the salary. My little brother Daniel, who was only 10, asked, "Does this mean we can fix the roof?" I laughed through the tears. "Yeah, buddy, I think we can." But I wasn't naive. I knew not everyone would be happy for me. And I was right. Because the next morning, I got a phone call from a blocked number. When I picked up, I recognized the voice immediately. It was Troy. "Hey, Lizzy," he said, voice low and bitter. "Heard you made quite an impression. Thought you should know I'm out of a job now. Thanks to you." He didn't say it outright, but the message was clear. I was about to learn that standing up for the right thing doesn't just bring rewards. It also makes enemies. And some of them don't stay quiet for long. I sat at my new desk the following Monday, hands hovering over the keyboard, heart thumping in my chest. The office was bright and quiet, a world apart from the buzzing, beeping chaos of the gas station. My name was printed neatly on a placard. Lizzy Hart, Customer Care Coordinator. It didn't feel real. Jenna, Oliver's assistant, had shown me around that morning and made me feel like part of the team right away. She even handed me a company laptop and said, "We're lucky to have you." Lucky to have me. No one had ever said that before in a job. But even as I tried to settle in, Troy's phone call echoed in my mind like a sour note in a sweet song. "I'm out of a job now, thanks to you." I hadn't meant to get him fired, but a part of me, the part that remembered being called stupid in front of customers, the part that remembered standing in that back room shaking while he barked orders, couldn't feel sorry for him. Still, the guilt lingered, and it followed me through my first week like a shadow. To make things worse, he wasn't done with me. It started small. A few days after the call, I noticed strange comments popping up on my Facebook from fake accounts. "Hope the new job is worth it, trader." And "Careful who you trust. People don't forget." I ignored them at first. But then my mom started getting weird calls, heavy breathing, then silence. "Wrong number," she said the first time. "Could be a telemarketer." But when it happened again and again, always at night, always from unknown numbers, I knew it wasn't random. Then one morning, I arrived at work to find a printed photo taped to my car window. It was an old picture. Me at the gas station, smiling with a cup of coffee in hand, clearly taken from a distance. On the back, in thick black marker, someone had written, "Nice little rise, let's see how long it lasts." I stood frozen in the parking lot, the paper shaking in my hand. I knew who had sent it. I didn't have proof, but I didn't need it. At lunch, I asked Jenna if I could speak to Oliver privately. She ushered me into his office right away. He listened carefully as I laid it all out. The call, the messages, the photo. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, I admitted. But it's starting to feel like more than just bitterness. Oliver's expression darkened. "You did the right thing, Lizzy, and I take this very seriously." He picked up the phone and dialed someone immediately. "Security," he said. "Have someone sweep the parking lot footage. I want every vehicle and person logged between 6 and 8 this morning. Then we file a police report." I blinked. "You're calling the police?" "We don't tolerate harassment here, not against our staff. And if someone thinks intimidation is going to work, they've picked the wrong company." Later that day, the police came by and reviewed the footage. They confirmed that a dark green pickup, the same kind Troy drove, had pulled into the lot briefly, headlights off, around 6:42 a.m. The image was grainy, but the build of the man who got out, it was enough to raise suspicion. A restraining order was filed. When the officer handed me the copy, he said, "If he shows up again, you call immediately. Don't hesitate." I nodded, clutching the paper like a lifeline. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, though a part of me was, but because I realized something deeper. When you stand up for what's right, you don't just shine a light. You also draw out the shadows. And not everyone wants you to win. The next morning, Oliver stopped by my desk. He looked serious but kind. "I want to offer you something," he said. "Not just as your boss, but as someone who believes in your potential." I frowned. "Offer me what?" "A mentorship program, one-on-one leadership training. We don't usually extend it to new hires, but you're not a usual hire." My breath caught. "Why me?" "Because you've already shown you have what most people spend years trying to fake. Courage under pressure. A voice. And the ability to care even when no one's watching. That's rare, Lizzy. And I want to invest in it." I felt something shift in me then. Not fear, not guilt, but a rising belief that maybe, just maybe, I belonged here. That I wasn't just some girl who once worked at a gas station. I was someone who had been tested and didn't back down. 3 months passed. Life had changed so completely that the gas station almost felt like a dream, or maybe a warning from another timeline. I no longer smelled like diesel. My mornings began with coffee and meetings instead of standing in the cold fumbling for pump keys. My fingers, once calloused, now flew over spreadsheets and client responses. I wore my badge on a lanyard that said Leadership Intern, Regional Development, and people actually listened when I spoke. But more than that, I had found something I didn't know I was missing. Purpose. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk prepping slides for our quarterly review, Jenna poked her head into my office. "You've got someone at reception," she said. "Says he's a friend. Won't give a name, but he's older. Very polite." My heart skipped. I walked out into the lobby, unsure what to expect. But the moment I saw him, I knew. "Mr. Grant?" I smiled. "Or Thomas?" He turned at the sound of my voice. Same cap, same gentle eyes, but clearer, more aware today. "Hello, Lizzy," he said with a warm, steady voice. "You remembered?" Of course I did. He handed me a small package wrapped carefully in gold paper. "It's from me and my son. Just a small thank you." I opened it slowly. Inside was a custom-engraved pen in a velvet box. On the side, it read, "To Lizzy, for choosing humanity." I blinked hard, holding back tears. "Mr. Grant, you didn't have to." "I know," he said, "but kindness should be acknowledged. It always should." We sat for a few minutes in the corner chairs of the lobby. He asked about my mom, my brother, how things were going. He told me that he had started attending memory workshops and had a caregiver who visited daily. "It's not the life I imagined," he said, "but it's still a life worth living, especially when you meet people like you along the way." Just then, Oliver appeared by the door. He smiled when he saw us. "Dad," he said, walking over and placing a hand on his father's shoulder. "You made it." "You knew he was coming?" I asked. Oliver nodded. He insisted. Said this part of the journey wasn't complete without seeing you again. They invited me to dinner that evening. Nothing fancy, just the three of us and Oliver's wife at their house, full of warmth and light and stories. It was the kind of evening you don't forget, the kind that reminds you what life is really about. When I got home later that night, I checked my phone. There were dozens of messages, most from coworkers congratulating me. Earlier that day, a short article had gone viral on a regional business blog. From Pump 4 to the executive office, how one act of kindness changed a life in a company. Someone from HR had written it after hearing my story. It talked about the incident, the dismissal, and the unexpected promotion. It talked about dignity and recognition, and how companies must choose what kind of culture they want to build. One of fear or one of trust. The final paragraph read, "Kindness is not weakness. It is wisdom wrapped in empathy. When we ignore it, we build walls. When we reward it, we build bridges. And sometimes we meet a young woman named Lizzy who shows us all the difference." The next morning, I walked into the office to a standing ovation from my team. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice cracked when I said thank you. I was overwhelmed. Not by attention, but by the realization that I hadn't just found a job. I'd found a place where I could grow, where my values weren't a liability, but my greatest strength. That afternoon, during a leadership workshop, Oliver stood beside me and told the room, "Lizzy taught us something that no policy ever could, that choosing to believe in people, even when it's inconvenient, is the strongest business strategy of all." After the session, a young intern approached me. She looked nervous. "I read the article," she said. "I'm just starting here, and I wasn't sure I belonged. But your story, it gave me hope." I smiled, remembering the girl who once stood trembling in a gas station back room, convinced she'd made a mistake by trusting her gut. "You belong," I said, "more than you know." Because the truth is, kindness doesn't just echo once. It echoes through people, through systems, through generations. And sometimes it only takes a $20 bill to remind the world what really matters.